The Early Weigh-In podcast is back this Saturday after a month break. We're back to the dreaded UFC Apex for UFC Vegas 94. UFC not really doing us any favors with this card either, man. 12 fights, headlined by women's strawweights this time between Amanda Lemos and Virna Jandiroba. And co-main is veteran Brad Tavares taking on Jin Park. Again, 12 fights, not the biggest name value here, but always take some fights on Saturday, man. Always like to at least get a couple bets in here, do a little gambling on Saturday. So keep an eye out on Twitter this week for us to release some picks. Make sure to do us a favor, like and subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. What was an absolute dumpster fire, reverse sweep from myself. Both of us on a bit of a skid right now, but still half the year pretty much to make it up. So let you break down how we finished last week. We'll jump into these fights.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy whenever it's a crap card and you don't do well betting. Yeah. So this one, it does hit a little harder whenever we're both in the red on a crappy card. We take a look at your card first. Drew Dober, that was your biggest bet of the night at 2.3 units. Dr. Stoppage and like we were talking about earlier, before the stoppage and everything, we could be looking at 1-1 going into the third. I know that Silva broke his hands in the first round, so who knows how he would look in an extended fight is what it is. Josh Friend versus Andre Petrosky. Friend I don't think he's that good,
No, man. I mean, he had one goal to just make Andre Petrosky work the slightest bit, and you didn't even try to get up. I don't know. It was an awful performance.
Yeah, I totally agree. Santos wins in round 2 or round 3. She just got it done a little bit quicker. Agapova, she's wild, man. I actually thought she was going to make it into the second round for you.
Yeah,
got it out. But missed on that one. And then Johnson by decision, plus 310. He's up going into the third round. He gets the knockout. I don't know. Just an unfortunate swing of things. Minus 4.65 units on the night. Looking over at my card, a lot of red as well. My only straight bet of the night was, certainly considered a gift in a lot of people's eyes. I had Muslim Salikov over Santiago Ponzinibbio. And, we talked about it beforehand. Maybe if you kind of manipulate how the fight's supposed to be scored, you could make a case for Muslim. But I think, the casual eye understands that Santiago was winning that fight,
Right.
So it is what it is. I'm happy to get a swing in my direction. Namajunas wins by submission. I had it in rounds 4 and 5 as well. The third round, I thought that it was an awesome bet. She had a bunch of control time, but did not happen. Cortez ended up gutting it out. Petrosky wins round 1 sub. We both took a little stab on that. He had the fight exactly where we wanted it. He had multiple opportunities. And at plus 950, I think we both play that all over again.
For sure.
Santos wins by sub in round 2. I also took a little stab on that. It was actually either girl wins by sub in round 2, but did not matter. The over 1.5 rounds, Drew Dober versus Silva. That wasn't, it's one of those bets where I think that there was value, but it sucked watching it, sucked making the play. But I'm glad I was on that one. And then fight goes to decision in both the Klein and Jasdovicius fight, and the Montel Jackson Damon Blackshear fight. I didn't have to wait much for this parlay, man. About 14 seconds for Blackshear to get knocked on his ass. Montel Jackson, I hope he starts fighting a little bit more, man. He's good. He's really good.
I definitely hope he gets a higher ranked opponent next time. He's definitely showed he deserves it.
Absolutely. I ended up the night minus 0.6 units, and like you said, both of us on a little bit of a skid, but we got a lot of work to still do this year. So, yeah. All right, moving on to the first fight of the night in the heavyweight division. Mo Usman taking on Thomas Peterson. Neither one of these guys are great. I'm actually anticipating the weigh-ins because I do think that there'll be a pretty significant size advantage for Usman, and I think that could actually play a huge factor in this fight. It does seem like, we're getting into the minus 130s, minus 135 for Mo Usman, and that's kind of how I'm seeing this fight as well. I think they both have a pretty good gas tank. Mo Usman does have that second gear. He's a little bit sloppy whenever he gets tired, but he does continue to work. And Thomas Peterson doesn't really offer enough finishing upside for me to be too worried about Mo Usman going in for sloppy entries. I think it'll be a grindy fight with Usman just able to kind of outwork him, be the bigger man in a couple positions, and win a decision. So I got Mo Usman by decision.
Yeah, I kind of went into watching some of these fights thinking I was going to be on the Mo Usman side as well. Pretty solid athlete. He's proven that he can win at the UFC level. And again, you kind of talked about it, proving that he can go all 3 rounds without a problem. After tape, man, I don't think he's that good. Not that Thomas Peterson is. I just don't think that Mo's all that good. I think he's a bit slow. The volume can be low at times. And the biggest thing that I didn't really like is I've never seen his grappling tested. And that's something that Thomas Peterson has the potential to do is mix up fights. He's a 2-time state champion in high school. I think he wrestled some in college as well. So he does have the ability to mix things up. And I actually kind of think that he's the one that could kind of maybe bully Usman up against the cage and use some size. So I don't know. I see the fight a little bit different at plus money. I feel like Thomas Peterson is the one in hindsight that could look the bigger favorite if he goes out there and implements his game plan with those takedowns, and then again could look like the bigger favorite here. So I'm on the Thomas Peterson side. I hate to see you on the other side here because maybe if I had heard some Peterson talk from you at plus money, I might have jumped on it. But at the end of the day, it's a sloppy heavyweight fight. They're getting out of the way, right off the jump, easy pass.
I hate to continue to touch on it, but the guys that have beaten Mo Usman in the past are guys like Brandon Sales and Dontel Mays, Mick Parkin. They're all substantially massive heavyweights, 6'4" and above, and they max out the weight limit. I really do. It sucks that we're talking about heavyweight males, but it's the same thing that we talk about female fighters as well. I really do think that the size is going to play a part in this. I'd be curious because I do agree with you that Peterson has the better pure wrestling. I just wonder if he's going to be able to work a guy as big as Mo Usman. So I'm curious, but I can't give you the shove on Peterson, man.
Oh, good. Again, easy pass for these, probably a sloppy heavyweight fight. Mm-hmm. Another fight easy to pass on, man. Stepping down the women's flyweight division, we got Luana Carolina taking on Lucie Pudilova. I know there's some talk that this potentially could be at bantamweight this week, but it is listed at 125 on Tapology. I don't really see much value on either side here in this fight. I think if I had to pick a side, I ever so slightly might pick Luana Carolina, just because you kind of just touched on it with the size. She's a long, lengthy, physical girl, and she's shown me, a couple times now in her fights with Lupi, Petrovic, with Stoliarenko. She has some pretty decent defensive grappling here. And so I'm just not so sold that Lucie's going to be able to come in here and land takedowns. I do think Lucie's a bit more technical on the feet, but could struggle a little bit with the range. Ultimately, it's just one of these fights that, we're scraping bottom of the barrel with these two girls. Probably could not warrant laying chalk on either one of them. Don't really have the best read, but, Carolina's cashed us a ticket before, so I'll take the Carolina side. Very, very little confidence in saying that, though.
Okay, so very little confidence in what I'm about to say. I'm on the Lucie Pudilova side at the current price tag. I kind of agreed with the odds makers who opened it at minus 130 for her. I thought that there was a little bit more technique involved in her game, and outside of her being a little bit smaller, I do think that she's a little bit better fighter. So as she moves into the plus money, I think it'd take plus 140 for me to actually make a move, and I don't think we're going to see that. But at these odds, I'd lean Lucie, but I totally agree that this is going to be a super close fight and an easy pass. Yep. Moving on to the lightweight division, Loik Radzhabov taking on Trey Ogden. I texted you earlier in the week. I'm just not sure if Loik is any good. I really wonder if he was just able to get here because of his sheer athleticism and strength. Mm-hmm. And now that he's fighting more technical guys, he just fails to round out his game. He's had some favorable matchups, and the fact that, like his last one, Al Salwati, also being just like a huge muscled up dude who doesn't have a lot of fast twitch muscle. Where Trey Ogden, he's kind of like he's like Mario. He's good all around. There's nothing like super special about him, but he is good everywhere. I think that he's smart enough to understand that Radzhabov has cardio issues, which is why I think that we're starting to see the line kind of move into, from Ogden being plus 140 all the way down to him inching into favorite odds. I think people are starting to realize that he could put together a game plan, but that's just not the type of fighter I like to bet on, like just because he could, the fact that he has to endure a round of getting his ass whooped, I'm not really a fan of banking on that fighter. So if I'm looking to play this, I'm thinking Ogden decision only, but I would assume we're looking at like a minus 180 price tag on that. I don't know that, but that's what I would line it. And if it's anything more than that, then I think there's no meat on the bone. So sadly, this is a pass for me. I don't want to trust Radzhabov inside the distance or something like that, and I don't want to bet on a fighter almost having to pay juice when I know he's going to get whooped on at the beginning. So
it's very similar thoughts. I think Trey Ogden here is an incredible live betting opportunity this Saturday. I think round one probably goes to Loik at a pretty high clip. He's got the much better forward pressure. He does have the way more ability to end the fight, much more power. Truth be told, I am worried about Trey Ogden's ability to get him down to the ground, especially early. But, like you said, I think Trey Ogden's a very intelligent fighter, intelligent enough to put together a game plan. He's a coach to Garrett Armfield, to Miles Johns. I think he's the type that has watched tape, that knows maybe he can beat Loik up on the outside with leg kicks the way Rebecca did. Rebecca was also able to put a pace on him and stuff. I think Trey is smart enough to pick up on things like that. And I think after round one, Trey Ogden becomes an incredible live betting spot if he's down. I think rounds two, especially round three, is always going to go to Trey Ogden in this situation here. So I'm looking to get on Ogden live, and that has to do with a little bit of missing the number on him as well. He seems to be one of the more popular underdogs this week, and I kind of have to agree, man. It's kind of hard for me to bank on Loik. I think he's one of these guys who, if he doesn't get it done in round one, a lot of his game falls off as the fight plays out. So on the Ogden side as well with you. Stepping back down to the women's flyweight, where Miranda Maverick taking on Dione Barbosa. Barbosa, extremely talented grappler, man. I think she's a black belt in both judo and jiu-jitsu. Also a very physical girl as well. And when you see the way Miranda Maverick has lost in the past, it's by being out-grappled by the more talented grappler, like girls like Erin Blanchfield and Jazz Davicius. And ultimately, I think round one in this fight could be a bit hairy for Miranda Maverick. I think Dione Barbosa is a girl who likes to come hot out the gates, use her grappling, and could put Miranda in some hairy positions early. But I don't know, man. She had Kruschewsky, a girl that I think is not on the level of Miranda Maverick, almost dead to rights in round one to the rear naked choke, not able to finish it. Miranda Maverick's a girl who's never been submitted in her career. And then, Dione Barbosa is next to dominating rounds 1 and 2 against Kruschewsky, and she has next to nothing left in round 3. And so ultimately, I do lean the Miranda Maverick side, but seeing that round 1 could be hairy, seeing her out-grappled before by girls who with better grappling chops, I can't argue that you should lay the minus 225 at all, but I can't argue that I think you should play the round 3 pop at plus 1,800 and the round 3 TKO at plus 5,000. Again, if Barbosa is as gassed as she was in her debut, I do think Miranda Maverick is on the caliber fighter that could put her away. And what I kind of looked at earlier, what kind of shocked me was the TKO in round 3 was plus 5,000. The submission in round 3 was like plus 2,500. I thought those should probably have been swapped because of the black belt level of Barbosa. I feel like Miranda Maverick's much more live to get the TKO from a top position or something rather than submitting. So plus 5,000, 0.2 unit stake for those two bets to return 6.8. So wish your boy luck this Saturday.
Yeah, no, you've convinced me to at least put some lunch money on it, for the personal bets.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think I'll have to look into it more to get on it tracked, but I certainly see what you're seeing. Barbosa has the history of it. It's just hard to look past that. She is 32, but she's built like Edson Barbosa, man.
No.
Actually, no, Leon Edwards is who I was thinking of. Dad and I were watching it, and Leon Edwards, I feel like, is exactly how she's built. Broad in the shoulders, small waist, so athletic, and some of the flying knees that you're seeing in her, in her highlight reel, it's stuff that a lot of women just can't do, simply can't do. And while I think Miranda Maverick is athletic and strong, I don't think that she has the pure athleticism that Barbosa has, and that takes you really, really far. We're right on the brink of the rankings, so I think that this is value-wise, I think it's all Barbosa, but I would slightly lean Miranda Maverick, just that she has a little bit more complete game plan. I think that she could outwork her and a little bit more proven. But, outside of kind of the things that come with experience, Barbosa has a lot of the athletic advantages and fast twitch muscle, all that kind of makes me want to play her inside the distance. But we're seeing the under 2.5 at plus 240, and I don't think the odds makers are giving them much hope to get a finish, which makes me want to lean Maverick. They really are trusting her here. So yeah, I slightly lean Maverick, but it's a layoff for me. Moving up to the bantamweight division, Brian Kelleher taking on Cody Gibson. Finally, a reasonable fight for both these guys. They've been matched up with some pretty tough dudes. Mm-hmm. I really wish I would have gotten on Kelleher plus 200, but even plus 165, plus 170 does look pretty appealing. I think that I'd probably just play Kelleher sub. I do think he's a little bit sub or bust. He hasn't gotten a sub in a pretty long time. But Cody Gibson, I feel like he's going to continue to shoot, continue to pull a pace. And we've seen Brian sell out for the guillotine. I think it's going to be there at one point. So if I was looking to play this, I'd probably play it that way. Outside of it, there's some gritty vets. I think Gibson pushes a little bit better pace, so I'd be worried if it did get to the judges' scorecards. So Kelleher, finish only or by submission. I think that's probably how I'd look to play it.
Yeah, we see the fight very similar, man. Brian Kelleher has 10 submission wins, 8 sub losses. Cody Gibson's been submitted 4 times, and if you look down through his Tapology record, I think three of those are by guillotine, which is Kelleher's move. I texted you earlier in the week. I was really hoping for a plus 400, but even you said at plus 215, fight ends by sub, still might have a little meat on the bones. I see a lot of grappling typically in this fight here. The reason I kind of lean the Cody Gibson side, I just, like you said, I think he pushes a higher pace. He's while he's 36, Brian Kelleher is 37 years old, coming off of neck surgery. Couple red flags that you just don't like to see. I don't know if he's going to be able to put together a full 3-round game plan. I feel like a lot of his wins are predicated on inside the distance, landing a big shot, finding that guillotine. And Cody's been a pretty historically durable guy unless you submit him. So Cody Gibson, a guy who's a teacher, has a 1-5 UFC record, not really warranted of the chalk. So I agree it's dog or pass, but for a fight that I see historically how these guys lose is by sub. A fight that I see could have some high-paced grappling, some scrambling opportunities in it. I might just have to stab at the plus 215 fight ends by sub. Might have convinced me there's still a little bit left on it.
Another thing to consider is maybe the under 1.5. It's at plus 150, and it's one of these fights where if the under 1.5 doesn't hit, it probably does go to decision. So, you look at Kelleher's wins and losses; they're all round 1. Cody Gibson, both of his tough fights both ended in round 1. He's pulled out he's lost 2 decisions, but it's Miles Johns and Brad Katona. I mean,
decision machines.
So I do feel like we're getting a little bit of a gift on the under 1.5 at plus 150. That might be a spot that I'm looking at.
I like it. Move on to the next fight here. We got Hyder Amil taking on Jeong, Yeong, Lee. Just flat out say it, man. Lee pretty much impressed me a lot in that last fight with Blake Builder. I thought he looked very fast. I thought he looked extremely accurate with his shots. Showed me offensive, defensive wrestling. And at range, man, I think he has potential to light Hyder Amil up. If I'm just being frank, being 100% honest with you, I really like what I've seen from the Jeong Lee side. Amil, the good thing about him, man, is the pace that this guy pushes. He is not afraid to get in your face and make this fight dirty. And he's a pretty durable guy too, man. So, I feel like Lee is going to get up early in this fight. Rounds 2 and 3 could get a bit hairy if Amil's pace starts to kind of to wear on Lee, but I don't know, man. I took away from that Lee fight that I think he, I don't want to say top 5, but I think he's going to be a top 20 featherweight. I really do. I liked what I saw from him. I think the skill set's there. I think he's at fight ready and stuff now with Eddie Cha, moved to the United States, investing in his career. I like what I see, man. I was really hoping that he was in a bettable range. But I think I am going to play his decision at plus 250. Amil is a guy who's never been finished before. Neither of the guys have ever been finished before. Fight going the distance at plus 120, I think, holds value. Your butt's just going to be puckered the whole time because it's going to be fought at a ridiculous pace. But with the durability of Hyder Amil, I just think he's far less technical in pretty much every aspect of the game compared to Lee. So Lee plus 250 on FanDuel by decision, I think holds a lot of value, and it's something I might find myself on later this week.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think I'd agree. Lee hits really, really hard, and he is so quick that I do think that there's going to be some opportunities for him to capitalize on against Hyder, who has like some mental slip-ups, it seems, in his fight, and he'll give up position. And I think that Lee is probably good enough to capitalize on it. And then just to kind of solidify it all, the 6-year age difference, Lee's the prospect here. Even though Amil is undefeated, it looks good. It's a pretty record. I do think that Lee's who the UFC would prefer to win. So narrative wise, all that. And it does seem like people are starting to bet Amil, and I would assume it's a lot of people looking at that undefeated record. I'm happy to, play Lee if it gets into like the minus 160s, minus 170s. That's absolutely a spot that I'd consider.
Me too, man.
Cool. Let's see. Is this the main card fight? Main card. Okay. Sorry, I got the computer loaded. We've got 145 pounds, Bill Algeo taking on Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy. This was a tough one for me, man. Both coming off losses to Kyle Nelson, who is making quite a run right now in the UFC.
Resurgent.
It's honestly insane. Bill Algeo, he's not somebody I like to bet. Similarly to a fight that we were just talking about, takes a lot of damage early. I know they're going to take a lot of damage early.
Ogden,
yeah. I feel exact same thing. Like, I think Algeo, he's constantly winning fights by being the more durable of the two fighters, and that's just not somebody I like to back. Ho Choi, he has a defense issue, but he is pretty durable, man. Like, he's been into some absolute slugfests, and it does seem like it's finally catching up to him, but able to make it to the scorecards in his last fight. So kind of answered a few of those questions after getting knocked out twice in a row for the first time in his career from Jeremy Stevens and Charles Jourdain. So maybe he took the needed time off, and I'm certainly rooting for him. I think this is probably a close fight, goes to the judges' scorecards. And I feel like we're going to repeat just that for like every fight on this card, Close fight goes to the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, no, and I see it the very same way, man. Choi was, he's now one of the most inactive guys we got on the roster. But like prior to that Cub Swanson fight, there was a lot of hype around the Korean Superboy as one of the better featherweight prospects. And then since that fight, you throw in the military sentence they're required to serve, and then just the sheer inactivity. Kind of let the best years of his career slip by him here, man. The Kyle Nelson fight for Doo Ho Choi, I didn't remember hardly anything about that fight. I did see it was a draw. I watched that back this week. Choi looked better, honestly, than I had remembered. There was that point deduction for, I think it was a headbutt that, that caused the draw there. Otherwise, should have won that fight. He just, for some reason, I guess I thought he looked horrible, and he looked a little bit better than I had imagined. And he's a really good striker, man. The side of Bill Algeo, how do I say it? I think Algeo, I know you don't like betting on him, and I kind of could probably say the same thing. I think Algeo is a pretty underrated guy, man, just truth be told. I think he is a good striker. I think he's durable. He's got elite gas tank. He's a really, really good grappler with good jiu-jitsu. My thing for Bill is when you look on social media and stuff is the guy owns his own gym. I think what's held Bill back is not having the elite bodies with him to train and get better. But I think Bill has skills, man, and has shown that he can win UFC fights. So the line gets down far enough, I might consider Bill Algeo. He's the side that I pick here. It's easy to bet on activity. So give me Bill Algeo. Again, though, close fight, probably going to decision. Taking a big step down here, Cody Durden taking on Bruno Silva. This is a pretty solid fight at 125, man. And I kind of like betting on Cody Durden. And it's just like I like betting on wrestlers, and I like betting on guys who don't deviate from their game plans. Like Cody Durden's not out there to strike with anybody. Cody Durden's out there to put a pace on you and to use his wrestling. And so it's easy to back. He's also coming in here with a pretty big height reach advantage. He's training at American Top Team, doing work with the champ in Pantoja. I don't want to say Cody has bad cardio, but he does slow down a little bit. But I think he always fights through the fatigue pretty good. And, I think he's going to win a lot of minutes in this fight against Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva, I think if he's going to win this fight, it likely is going to be inside the distance. A lot of his wins, I have been a little bit more impressed with Bruno Silva in his losses than I have his wins. Like his wins haven't really held much weight to me, but he's competed in good fights with like Tagir Ulanbekov. And I think there was another one as well early on in his career.
Khalid Taha, that one?
I don't remember.
Or David Dvorak?
I really can't remember. There was just one other. I definitely remember the Tagir fight, but I was just like, okay, damn, he like did a whole lot better than I was giving him credit for, And so I don't hold much weight in his wins. He's finished a whole lot of low-level guys. He's a pretty opportunistic finisher. Good calf kick, which Cody needs to be careful for. But I just see Cody landing his takedowns, man, winning minutes here. And if he gets on top, I don't necessarily think he's got the best finishing instincts. He doesn't really have the best ground and pound. He doesn't lock up too many submissions. So I feel like Bruno Silva is going to be safe. I feel like Cody Durden decision hits at a pretty high clip here. Have any different thoughts on it?
I have bet against Cody Durden in every single fight. I am down units big time betting against him. I bet JP Bays against Cody Durden, dude. I don't have much faith in him, whereas Bruno Silva, I've actually been a huge fan of his. I've always thought that he was super underrated and just had some tough matchups early in his career. I think he's got a good mind on him. He's got a good team behind him, and I do like him here. This is probably the first – that's the thing. That's why I prefaced it with me always losing trying to fade Cody Durden. But I do think that this is a really good opponent who can negate a lot of the good that Cody Durden does. And for it only being 15 minutes long, I think that Bruno Silva can continue that pace and just be a better fighter than Cody Durden. I think I'm not a fan of Cody Durden. Don't think he's that technically sound. I think that he's tough and it gets him pretty far. And he can stick to a game plan, so that's good. But outside of that, I'm not too high on him. And I really this would be like a 4-unit bet if Bruno Silva was 30 instead of 34. But I can't look past that. So probably a 1.5 unit bet at plus 100,
Like it.
My next?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. We got Kurt Holobaugh taking on Kaynan Kruschewsky at 155 pounds. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't look at this fight too much. I know Kurt Holobaugh from The Ultimate Fighter. At 37 years old, he's looking pretty good. He's able to get outworked by Trey Ogden, who's not very high volume, but it would have been sad if Ogden lost that fight. Kaynan looks a whole lot more in shape than he had in his debut, and Ellsbrenner is a really tough matchup. It was up at catch weight, 10 pounds heavier. He looks in good shape this time, and I feel like this is the first true debut of his. I think he should get it done against Kurt. Not a lot of conviction with that, but I've got Kaynan.
Kaynan, however you say. I think it's Kaynan.
Kaynan, yeah.
I'm with you, man. I'm on the Kaynan side as well. Holobaugh's kind of been a popular dog this week, and to an extent, it was a little bit understandable to me. Kruschewsky is 0-1 in the UFC, with that one loss being a very bad, nasty TKO behind the ear. And so it's like it hasn't really done anything to be a favorite over a guy who's a two-time UFC vet, very durable, Kurt Holobaugh, who, like you said, seems to kind of be on a career resurgence here. But especially after the line has closed in so much, I'm kind of looking at the Kaynan side or pass. I think Kaynan is the better striker at range. If just truth be told, he may not be as durable, but I think he's a better Muay Thai striker at range. And from what Kurt showed me off his back, Ogden showed me that once you get on top of this guy, he doesn't have much get-up game. He's not very I don't know. I just feel like Kaynan, if he gets on top, is equally as live to ride out rounds like Ogden did, has the advantages on the feet. So I don't like backing a guy coming off of a big KO loss like that, but I agree with you, man. Kaynan Kruschewsky, the side for me too. Moving on to the next fight. Probably the best fight on the card, man. I told you I'd absolutely watch this as a main event just because I think it's going to be an absolute bar burner, man. Steve Garcia taking on Seung-Woo Choi. Both guys absolutely content to stand and bang for us in the middle. Both of them have questionable chins as well. So I think someone's hitting the deck in this fight, and line indicates the same thing. I know earlier in the week, the under 1.5 was like minus 170. I know it's creeping up close to minus 200 at this point time. And I would have to agree, man. I think these guys are going to meet in the middle. And I feel like, truth be told, one of the first big shots could send somebody down. I think Steve Garcia packs more punch, packs a little bit more forward pressure, willingness to make the fight dirty, get in your face. I don't think he's going to be, Steve Garcia is a massive fucking featherweight, man. I don't think he's going to have the size advantage like he's used to in some of these fights. And I also think that the Muay Thai on Choi is so much better than Steve Garcia. And if Steve Garcia comes swinging that left hand like he did against Maheshate, I think he's going to meet the same result. So I'm on Choi, man. I think he's good. I think he's equally as live to get knocked out, truth be told, and chin for chin. Garcia's might be a little bit better, but I think as far as technical striking, Choi could capitalize on some of these mistakes Garcia makes. So give me Sting Choi.
Yeah, I have to agree. He's much faster. It looks like the fight to end by knockout is minus 350.
300. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it had to be something stupid. I think it's a left hook for Choi, man. The same one that him and dude almost knocked each other out with. He throws that right hand, and his left hook is so clean.
Well, look, so they've got the KO, TKO, minus 360. But if you go over to the round props, I totally agree. I think that Seung-Woo Choi is going to be much faster. He's going to be able to beat him to the punch, especially early. And I would look for Garcia to start taking over with his durability as it goes down the stretch. I just think that he's probably tougher, keeps his power. But early on, Seung-Woo Choi, round 1, plus 275. I think that's a look. I don't know what the round, let's see, round 1 TKO plus 300. So I just take the plus 275 in case you get a club and sub. But I do think that there's high potential for Sungwoo Choi to, starch him early, similar to the Mahachete, like you mentioned.
Like it.
Let's see. Moving on to the co-main event, Brad Tavares taking on Jeong Park. Man, another fight where I'm super tempted to play Brad Tavares here. I think Jeong Park, he kind of is a little overrated. We've seen him against middling guys, and he kind of drops the ball anytime he takes even the slightest step up, where we've seen Tavares, continuously compete with some of the best guys in the division. Hasn't looked great for him in, recent years, I guess, and only against Chris Weidman and Omari Akhmedov, who, I think were both 38 at the time, something like that. So it's tough. It's tough to say. But, man, I wish that this was a spot where Tavares was like 2-1, like a plus 200 or better. I'd bet the shit out of him. But I think that I'll only be able to get a unit down on Tavares here. Maybe Tavares by split or Tavares decision, But even then, I don't think this is one of those cards where I feel like people are going to get in trouble trying to get cute and call the, it's going to be by decision or whatever. And, this will probably be the one where Tavares gets some KO.
Like a second knockout in 25 UFC fights.
I could just totally see it, like putting him on the co-main event spot. Yeah, I've got Tavares here. Plus 130. It's not really what I'm looking for, but I'm like looking at Tavares 53%, something like that. So, I'm taking a little dog shot in the co-main event here. I got to make something, we run a betting podcast, and I'm passing on like everything. So give me Bruno Silva and Brad Tavares. This is my locks of the week, dude.
So I think I'm going to play Brad Tavares, but I do think I want 100 points better at plus 230 for a decision. Again, we're talking. I think I looked it up and wrote it down earlier. I think this is he has had 26 UFC fights. This will be his 27th UFC fight, and he's got 2 knockout wins. But he's 13-4 to the decision. I think it's 100% more warranted, man. I think Brad Tavares is a really live underdog as well. Phenomenal cardio, phenomenal takedown defense. The biggest flag just happens to be the durability and the 5 TKO losses at this point in his career. Park is just not a guy who I think has really heavy hands. Sure, he got Duraev out of there. He shattered Duraev's nose early and put a pace on him. Duraev quit. I don't think we're going to see Brad Tavares quit. He wobbled RoboCop. I think RoboCop's chin is, despite knocking out Tavares, maybe spottier than Tavares, if I'm just being honest with you. I don't know. I'm not sold that Jeong Park is going to land any type of takedowns here. I think the cardio is just as matched. The only reason I don't want to go too heavy is Brad Tavares could be washed. That's just the honest opinion. He could be washed at this stage. So it's probably going to be a 0.5 stab, but at plus 230, I plan on trying to take a little look at Brad Tavares as well. And moving on to the main event, Amanda Lemos taking on Virna Jandiroba at 115 pounds. Virna's got solid wrestling, pretty damn good jiu-jitsu, but I think she's absolutely sub or bust here, man. And she's shown me time and time again that even 3-round fights are hairy for her, man. She slows down in almost every single fight. She's 36 years old herself and very, very much outmatched on the feet here in terms of striking, power, athleticism. I think Amanda Lemos showed me in that 5-round fight with Jeong Wei Li. She's not quitting on herself, man. She took an ass whooping. She was there for all 5 rounds. Cardio's looked good. I feel like she's landing the TKO at some point in this fight, but I also do feel like she's got a nasty guillotine as well, and on some sloppy attempt from Virna in round 3 or 4. Maybe the guillotine's live as well. I've played Lemos finish only at minus 125. Virna Jandiroba, she has really good jiu-jitsu, but in the UFC, she's got 2 submission wins, and they are arm break to Kanako Murata. I'm sorry, no, that was a TKO. Felice Herrig and Mallory Martin. Bottom of the fucking barrel, man. I'm not sold that she's going to go out here and submit Amanda Lemos. Maybe she humps her for 5 rounds, and I get it back. But Lemos finish only -125. Lemos money line +110. I'm probably going to get on it, man. The more I talk about it, I think Lemos is the clear side for me.
Yeah, no, hearing you talk about it, I'd have to agree. I mean, it's one of these ones where if Lemos was 30, I'd bet her literally 5 units. It's just she's also 37, and if I just take a step back, there's no narrative involved. I mean, Virna has the skill set to ground Lemos and make it a boring fight. I'm curious, who the ref is going to be, if they're going to be making her work. But if Jandiroba understands that she only needs 1 takedown a round to secure it, there's certainly a world where she wins this fight.
Mm-hmm.
The over-under set at 3.5 rounds. I see what you're saying. Like, those 4th and 5th round shots will be sloppy. She's going to be tired. And if Lemos is still there, I think that there's a ton of potential for her to finish it in those later rounds. And then early as well. She's so explosive and everything. If Virna isn't able to ground her early, then yeah, there's a ton of potential to finish there as well. I just think that Virna's probably going to have success early. And then as she wears down, we see Lemos take over. At plus money, I'd have to agree. It doesn't look like it's going to be plus money for too much longer. So, I have to agree with you. It's not going to be a huge bet because she is 37 years old and she kind of came into the game late, and Virna's got a ton of experience. So it's tough to lay too much money on her, but I'd have to lean her, especially at dog odds. It's a pretty easy bet.
Nice, man. That's 12 fights going down at the dreaded Apex for UFC Vegas 94. Amanda Lemos, Virna Jandiroba. Hopefully we do see a finish in that fight on the Amanda Lemos side. It'd be pretty nice. Keep an eye out on Twitter. Like I said, we'll be releasing some plays throughout the week. Do your boys a favor. Make sure to like and subscribe. Help us out a little bit. And we'll be back next week. See you guys.
Peace.